What's up, Taiwan? I'm Reece with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Labour rights activists have gathered in Taipei to call on the new Labour minister to do more to protect the country's migrant workers. Taiwan is home to 750,000 migrant workers, but many face discrimination and a system that's left them saddled with debt. Rick Glauert reports.
It's International Migrants Day, and here in Taiwan, outside the country's Labour Ministry, rights activists and migrant workers are gathering to urge the government to do more to protect the country's migrant workers. Taiwan has more than 700,000 migrant workers, mainly from Southeast Asia, and they work as caregivers in factories and in the country's fishing industry. But significantly, they are not afforded the same rights and protections as other workers in Taiwan.
Domestic worker rates are less than 70% of the minimum wage, and we have no day offs. We stay in our employer's home 24 hours a day, either working on our standby, which severely affects our physical and mental health.
Among the demands from protesters here is that migrant workers should be allowed to change and choose jobs themselves without having to go through a broker. They're also saying that the government should do away with limits on how long migrant workers can live and work in Taiwan. Taiwan has a new Labour minister, Hong Shun-han, and when he was a lawmaker, he championed migrant workers' rights. Protesters here saying that now he is in charge, he should start making the changes he demanded in the past. Justin Wu and Rick Glauert in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Shanghai's vice mayor says he'll push for tour groups from his city to visit Taiwan. The announcement, made during an annual goodwill forum between Taipei and Shanghai, is being hailed as a positive step in cross-strait relations. Cadence Carranto reports.
Speaking at this year's Taipei-Shanghai Twin Cities Forum, Shanghai's vice mayor said he hoped more Shanghai residents would visit Taipei.
上海方面将积极推动上海居民赴台团队游，旅游路线一定会包含台北市。
Citing worsening relations, Beijing stopped issuing its tourists permits to visit Taiwan in 2019. Soon after, pandemic-era travel restrictions were imposed and cross-strait tourism ground to a halt. And as of 2024, Chinese tourists from just one province are allowed to visit two of Taiwan's outlying islands, Jinmen and Matsu, a move seen as an olive branch from China amid increasingly tense cross-strait relations. Taiwan, meanwhile, has allowed individual tourism to China, but not group tours, a policy that's led to a tit for tat, with China's Taiwan Affairs Office saying it might consider lifting its ban on tourists to Taiwan if Taipei allows groups to visit China. The ongoing deadlock and resulting drop in tourism has hit some local economies hard, with many in the industry happy to see any thaw in relations.
非常的开心，业者也都准备好来接待我们大陆的旅客。希望我们的政府能够尽速的解除台湾就是旅行社赴大陆的禁团令，因为这样子可以让两边的观光旅游可以朝正常的发展。
It remains to be seen whether tourism from Shanghai will materialize. If it does, it will still be far less than pre-pandemic numbers. But some in Taiwan are hailing the announcements as both a move in the right direction and a positive step in cross-strait relations. James Lin and Cadence Carranto for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's former president Ma Ying-jeou is on his way to China for the second time this year.
我想在现在这个阶段呢，两岸青年互相交流是格外重要的，尤其是在全球战争频仍，两岸关系远较我们执政时期紧张。
Ma is leading a group of Taiwanese students to the Harbin Ice Festival in northeast China and to Sichuan province. Ma's foundation recently brought Chinese students on a tour of Taiwan, which sparked controversy when one of the students referred to Taiwan's baseball team as China Taipei. A city government official from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party has been detained on corruption charges. Keelung City Councilor Zhang Haohan is accused of having his assistant report false salaries and of falsely reporting his mother as one of his staffers. Both Zhang and his secretary pleaded guilty to the charges and returned their illegal earnings of about $24,000. Nominees to fill 7 seats in Taiwan's top court are being grilled by opposition lawmakers over their stance on the death penalty. Capital punishment hit the headlines here in Taiwan last week after a court commuted a death sentence, triggering outrage among victims' families. Tiffany Wong reports.
Families of victims of serious crimes still in mourning years. They say upholding the death sentences of the perpetrators is the only way they can see justice. But they're worried that a recent constitutional ruling limiting its use may never see the offenders punished.
我特地带来了我太太见证现场的小包包，我现在都还保留着。你认为说死刑是合宪，可是你判出来的结果让底下各级的法官没有办法独立审判，让他无法执行死刑，自己就做了违宪的做法。
还要有多少难过的家庭？我们今天在这里还不够吗？宪判8的这个判决啊，其实是不只是关乎于被害人家属，它要带来的后果其实是全体国民要一起承担的。
The death penalty is one of the most controversial issues in Taiwan, and many lawmakers and citizens alike still strongly support the punishment. But in September, the Constitutional Court ruled that the death penalty was only allowed in exceptional cases. A poll published by a think tank founded by a KMT legislator showed over 80% of people disagree with the court's ruling. And now, 7 justice nominees picked by President Lai Ching-te are under fire as they undergo confirmation hearings in the opposition-controlled legislature. One nominee, a law professor at the country's top university, was grilled over her response to whether she agreed with the court's ruling.
全体的国民没有权利知道你在这个重大的基本人权保障的议题上面的想法吗？
全体人民跟大院都有权利知道我在这个议题的想法。
所以你的想法是什么？
这个议题的想法就是我们应该要尊重宪法法庭的裁判。
没有错。除了这个以外呢？
除了这个以外，我们不能表示任何的意见。
Other nominees said that restricting the scope of the death penalty doesn't mean that it won't be used, and acknowledged that justices would still have to address concerns about capital punishment in the future.
以从国际人权条约的发展来看的话，它大概是分为2个阶段。一个社会的脉动慢慢从把它限缩到比较小的严谨的范围。那我相信台湾的社会目前为止刚好处于的第一个阶段。那它可能未来在第2个阶段是否要进行到废除死刑的话，应该可以透过社会更多的互动讨论。
The 7 justice nominees will need to pass this review by the legislature, where the opposition Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party have a combined majority, if they want to get a seat on the court. The legislature is set to vote to confirm the justices on December 24th. But with political division and no consensus on the thorny issue of the death penalty, the court's future hangs in the balance. Ryan Wu and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Ukraine's spy agency is claiming responsibility for the assassination of a high-ranking Russian general in Moscow. Russian investigators say an explosive device was hidden in a scooter outside an apartment and detonated remotely. Rosie Greninger reports.
This is the moment an explosion claimed the life of one of Russia's top generals, Igor Kirillov, and his assistant in Moscow. The blast occurring outside a residential apartment building, just a few blocks away from the Kremlin.
Я его знала только по СМИ. А что он проживал у нас в подъезде, я, конечно, не знала. А по телевидению-то мы его видели.
Lieutenant General Kirillov oversaw Russia's chemical and biological weapons unit. An anonymous official from the SBU, Ukraine's top spy agency, says they are behind the assassination. It comes just one day after the organisation released a warrant for Kirillov's arrest over alleged war crimes, including the use of a banned chemical weapon. He was also sanctioned by several countries, including the UK and Canada, for his actions in Moscow's war against Ukraine. Russian investigators say a bomb was planted inside a scooter and detonated remotely as Kirillov exited the building.
На месте происшествия работает следственно-оперативная группа, устанавливаются обстоятельства преступления и круг лиц, причастных к их совершению.
As investigators attempt to get a clear picture of how this attack unfolded, what's become evident is that the brazen killing has undermined Russia's ability to project itself as unassailable. There was no security at the apartment, and Kirillov has become the most senior military officer to be killed inside Russia by Ukraine. Labelling it an act of terror, the Kremlin is vowing retaliation for his death.
Но в любом случае правоохранительные органы должны найти убийц в России, и нужно сделать все, чтобы уничтожить заказчиков, которые находятся в Киеве.
The assassination is not expected to change the course of Russia's almost 3-year invasion of Ukraine. But as Kiev demonstrates it can reach inside Moscow to successfully target senior officials, it is raising questions about the Kremlin's vulnerabilities. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
The Pacific island nation of Vanuatu is reeling after a magnitude 7.3 quake struck on Tuesday, killing at least 14 people. More than 200 people are injured. The tremor hit just 30 kilometers from the country's capital, toppling buildings, causing landslides and knocking out internet and phone services. Crowds have gathered outside hospitals seeking treatment. Hong Kong's government is planning a massive development project on wetlands and villages in its new territories area. But farmers and environmentalists are fighting to preserve one of Hong Kong's last expanses of undeveloped land. Wesley Lewis has more.
Right on the doorstep of mainland China, Hong Kong's Deep Bay wetland is the city's largest and most important marsh. Just across the border is the towering skyline of the megacity of Shenzhen. Hong Kong's government has been eyeing this 300 square kilometer tract of undeveloped land for a massive development project that would push out the area's villagers and farmers. But locals say they are holding out for as long as possible.
你政府逼到落嚟收，我都無可奈何要俾過佢㗎啦。但係你話喂，我哋強求仲喺度講緊喎，你點咧咁講？咁佢一日業主收我租，我都照喺度住。
Aqua farmer Chan Kwok-sun has been managing his fish ponds here for nearly 4 decades. But the government's ambitious proposal, known as the Northern Metropolis Project, would greenlight an unprecedented scale of development, one that would see Chan's farm filled in along with the surrounding wetlands that conservationists say should be preserved.
我哋係應該要珍惜，諗下點樣可以更加利用佢成為即係一個更加可持續嘅城市，而唔係話我哋再使用呢一啲已經僅存落嚟有限嘅資源咧，去做一啲無窮嘅發展。
Conservationists say Hong Kong has the largest and most intact piece of coastal wetland in South China's Greater Bay Area, hosting crucial habitats for numerous species of migratory birds. The Hong Kong government says their urbanization plan would deepen integration with mainland China and create housing for around 2.5 million people. But local authorities argue the development goals would come at the expense of those who live there now.
嗱，即係講句好聽啲咧，就係犧牲小我完成大王，係嘛？講句唔好聽嘅咧，就我哋不斷俾人割，即係一幅幅咁割出去。
Construction has already begun here for the Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park, which, when completed, will be the city's largest tech industry hub. Although local officials and villagers say it's unlikely the city government will budge, they continue to appeal to keep their village from being torn down, fighting for their right to stay on this sought-after plot of land. Kama Shu and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, let's immerse ourselves in this light show at a 17th century church in Amsterdam. The display, called Genesis, depicts the creation of the world. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.